colleagues, we acknowledge the presence of our Honorable Minister for Education, Heritage and Arts.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've been given the honors to welcome you. If I do not welcome this great team, Team Madhuwata,
Divisional Education Officer, North, District Education Officers, heads of schools, primary and secondary, our media partners, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, Nisa Vulavinaka, and a very good morning to you all. I think this is one of the biggest groups we've addressed. And thank you for being here with us this morning, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm sure it's not an easy task leaving your schools and your responsibilities, but I'm sure your schools will be looked after well in your absence. And please feel free to be in touch with your deputies should any situation arise that needs your attention. But all in all, ladies and gentlemen, it's 2020 and most of us have been part of this ministry. I think most of you have been part of this ministry for many, many years, and you have given your contributions to the nation as educators of our children. And at this point in time, please acknowledge those that have left us, those that have retired, those that have resigned, those that have migrated, and those that have left the teaching profession for obvious reasons. So we put on record our sincere appreciation to the work that they have done, for the legacy that they have left behind, and for the work that they've done in putting Fiji where it is today in the field of education. And I'd also like to thank you for taking up this responsibility to lead your schools. And I'm sure you are being placed there because we have placed a lot of trust in you, and you are probably the best person to lead that institution for the year 2020. For those that you have been leading before that, I'm sure you come with a lot of experience, wealth of knowledge, and you have your own contributions towards the education ministry. 2020, ladies and gentlemen, we want it to be a different year. We want it to be a year of opportunities. So before the school year started, we did a lot of analysis with the divisional heads and said, it's very important for us to communicate with you. I think one of the flows that we had with the Minister of Education was dissemination of information at the right time. And it's very important that you and I come and talk. You know of my expectations. I understand your challenges. Of course, I wouldn't call it problems. I'd love to call it challenges, because every challenge, we have to find a solution. And if you work as a team, you are what? 101 plus 25. 101 primary school heads are here and 25 secondary school heads are here. You can make your division, the Bua Madhuwata, the district of Bua Madhuwata, one of the top performing districts. And as I sit at the headquarters and I hear grievances, I hear success stories, I hear issues that are brought by the communities, the media, the parents and the students and the teachers as well, I think your district, the Northern Division, probably ranks very low in terms of complaints that we receive. So all in all, what it basically means is you are fulfilling or performing your responsibilities pretty well. But remember, ladies and gentlemen, there's always avenues for us to step up. And I'm going to use the word us here because it includes you and me as well. Okay? So 2020, let's step up in our responsibilities and let's do things, the same things but in a different manner. Let's see that the child remains our focus. Let's see that the community expectations and the government's vision remains our focus. Let's see that you as heads of school keep your staff welfare a priority. And let's see that you as heads of school go the extra mile to ensure that we deliver quality, accessible and equitable education, inclusive education to all those students who walk through your institutions. Okay? So the divisional, your divisional Northern mentioned about the METS meeting we had yesterday. Actually, that is due to the fact that currently we are having issues with our METS results as well. I'm sure you've analyzed your results and you know that we have issues with last year's METS results, but all is not gloom and doom. Together we can re-strategize and see how we can uplift the performances of our METS students this year. So we met up with the Lagundrove METS teachers yesterday, with the SEO METS, and I think he'll be sharing with you the outcomes of the meeting yesterday. But ladies and gentlemen, all in all, we basically met most of the heads of schools across the country. We are left with the Maritime, the Eastern Division, which we intend to do in probably the next 2 weeks after the Parliament session. Because I'm sure the issues surrounding the maritime areas are probably different from the ones that the Central Division has, or the Western Division has, and what you have. So this session we'll open up the session when I finish, and you will be given a chance to share your views with us. But before I begin, I think it's very important that I know who you are and what community you represent and what experience and knowledge that you bring to the Ministry of Education. But like I said, from the Northern Division, from your division, we receive very little issues, so I must congratulate you for that. But ladies and gentlemen, let's start off with some information that pertains to your work. And I'd like to say that as of today, we have officially confirmed the results for our exams last year. Our year 6 results stands at 56%. If I can take you through 2016 till 2019 results, I think you can see the trend there. In 2016, our year 6 results was 48%. 2017, we set at 50%. 2018, we went up to 64%. 2019, we've come down to 56%. So we need to set and reset our strategies to ensure that we set a new benchmark. You will have your divisionals and the monitoring team from the headquarters visiting you shortly after week 6, and they will work with you to help you set your internal targets so that we can set our national targets for year 2020. For our year 8 exams, in 2016 we were at 65%, 2017 we went up to 68%, 2018 we went down 59%, and last year we went up to 69%. As you and I both know, we need to work to ensure that we set up a bit higher benchmark this year. Year 10 started with 45% in 2016. Why I'm giving you figures from 2016 is that's the year we scraped scaling. So these marks are not scaled marks. They are the raw marks of the students. So year 10, 2016 was 45%, in 2017 it was 55%, 2018 we went down by 1% at 54%, and this year our official results are sitting at 53%. Again, primary school, heads of schools, you need to work with your teachers, you need to work with your team from the division and the headquarters, your SCOs, to see how we can set a higher benchmark for this year. Year 12, we started 2016 without scaling at 61%. 2017 we were 71%, 2018 we were 72%. This year our confirmed result stands at 73%. Well done. But again, like I said, 2020 we will set up another realistic benchmark to achieve a bit higher target. Year 13, 2016 was 65%, 2017 71%, 2018 84%, and 2019 we are sitting at 79% confirmed results. Again, well done, but I think we will have to work together to set a higher benchmark for 2020, and we should be able to do that by week 6 or week 7 of this term, so that we are all on the same page. You've got to understand that the primary schools and the secondary schools, you need to work together when we set benchmarks. Because the work done in primary school, when you prepare your children, and when they enter secondary school, the results of their primary school achievements very much reflect their performance and their achievements in the secondary school. So please convey my appreciation to all your staff, your team when you go back, and thank them for the work done last year. But do advise them that 2020 we need to step up in all areas of our responsibility. Ladies and gentlemen, again I'd like to take you through some very basic things that you and I both need to know and see how our ministry operates. And I would appreciate if we call it our ministry. Ministry of Education is not just the ministers and the assistant ministers and the peers. We all are part of a team, and we will have to work and be part of the team to ensure that we achieve the government's mission, the ministry's mission, and of course the vision and mission that you have set for your individual institutions. There are 4 key areas that we look at when we come to the Ministry of Education. One I've already talked about, quality, equitable and accessible education, and that includes inclusive education, relevance, How do we set our learning pathways? Teacher professionalism is very important for us because that all determines the student outcomes and the well-being. Four or five key areas we're going to look at. I'm going to give you a brief background of some stats that you and I both should know. How many students are we looking at? How many teachers are we looking at? How many EC enrollments are we looking at per year? And how are we going to improve that? So if I could take you back to year 2019, these stats have not changed much, but we will be giving you updated stats as soon as you upload your FEMIS. Our EC enrollments last year stood at 19,109. So from that you can gauge that in class 1 we would have more than 20,000 primary school students. Those that don't attend EC, inclusive of the EC, new edition, is sitting somewhere around 20,000 students in our EC centers. And we have well over 1,000 EC centers, some attached to primary schools, some are standalone centers. And when we did our audit last year, we found out that we have close to 100 plus EC centers which have 5 or less students. Now that is a concern for us. Okay, so sometimes your management will come up, the community will come up with proposals that we want to have an EC center in your school, either attached or in the community, a standalone center. The decisions that you make with your management for the establishment of our EC center must take in the fact your student enrollments. We give one teacher for 15 EC students. So if you have less than 5, we still give you the EC grant and we will still give you one teacher. The operational cost for running EC centers which have less than 5 or 4 students is pretty high. And we even have a few EC centers where there is one teacher and one child. So we need to find solutions for that. It's not easy for us to close those EC centers down because we're saying we want accessible education for our children. So these are some of the plannings that you need to do, especially for primary schools, because that EC center is going to affect your primary enrollment as well. The age, the criteria for enrolling students in kindergarten, I'm sure you're all aware of that. Because if you enroll underage children in your kindergarten, then come the next year, you will face the pressure from parents to enroll those students in year 1, And then of course we have the education gazette that mandates the age entry requirement for class 1. So as heads of schools, these are the things that you must understand. Because come the start of a new year, we always are flooded with concern from parents. My child went to an EC for 1 year. But does that mean that there's an automatic qualification for class 1? No. So if you have underage children in EC, you will have underage children expected to be enrolled in class 1. So primary school heads of schools, when you meet in your clusters, if you're a new head of school, please talk with your divisions and those who have been in positions for long so that you get guidance on that. And if you don't understand anything, please look at policies that guide enrollment, etc. The primary enrollment last year stood at 148,048 children. So obviously we are looking at a similar number this year. Close to 49,000 students are in our primary schools. Our secondary enrollment stands at 66,000 plus. Last year we had 66,177 students to be precise. So most of them would have enrolled into tertiary now, but we still have the similar numbers. We have close to 3,287 vocational students, and our tertiary enrollment stands at about 38,659. So all in all, ladies and gentlemen, we are looking at a large number of the Fijian population when it comes to education, whether it's EC, whether it's primary, whether it's secondary, whether it's vocational, whether it's tertiary. Those dreams, those hopes, and those aspirations start with us. So you are basically trusted with the young minds of the nation. How we mold that young mind from EC to primary to secondary to tertiary rests upon our shoulders. So you can imagine the pivotal role that you and I play in ensuring that we deliver quality. You are building the nation's resource, those that we're going to entrust the country in future. And the parents have entrusted that hope on you. So please, when I talk about professional teachers, when I talk about professionalism in teaching, it starts with us. How you as a head of school look after your institution. how you as a head of school deal with students' issues, how you as a head of school deal with community expectations, and how as you as a head of school deliver our expectations. The benchmark is up here. It's up here. How well are we going to receive that? How how well are we going to achieve that? That takes a lot of planning. And I'm told in the morning you had a session with your divisional on strategic planning and all those things. Policies. A lot of policies that guide our work. A lot of policies that guide your work as a head. One of the policies that I think, somebody sent me an article from Fiji Times, from the leader of opposition talking about, not leader of opposition, NFP, talking about the visitor policy. This policy has been in place for a year or so. And there's nothing dictatorial about it. We are not restricting you from allowing visitors in your schools. All we want to know is who's coming to address our students. What are they going to address? How much teaching time will they take off you? Because at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, your performance is going to be judged on the student outcomes. How many days are you taking off from the teaching time? We have a strict curriculum. 8 to 4, you need to fit that in with other co-curricular activities, sports, including athletics has just started. After athletics, we'll start with soccer, netball, rugby, and the list goes on. Okay? So your children and you need to prepare for that. So we need to scrutinize who's coming to our institutions and who's taking over teaching and learning time. How do you intend to cover that time? I've started receiving requests for Saturday classes. And I don't understand why. I was a teacher for 25 years. Why do we need Saturday classes? If we plan, if we understand our syllabi, if we understand the needs of our children, and we plan our teaching well, do we need Saturday classes? You tell me that. Saturday classes, when you organize Saturday classes, your teachers have to sacrifice their family time. Then there'll be bus fare issues. Then there'll be disciplinary issues. Then there'll be other safety issues for your children. Should they not reach home on time? Who takes responsibility for that? And that's one of the reasons why we need you to manage your 8 to 4 well. You only ask for evening classes or extra classes or Saturday classes if you can justify that the time that is given to you 8 to 4 is not enough. There's a lot of time, 8 to 4 is a lot of time. Plan it. So I don't see any reason why people are making such a big fuss about this visitor policy. So please ensure that you understand that policy. We are not saying heads of schools, you are not at a liberty to allow visitors. Parents, guardians are free to come and see you regarding the welfare of the children. We want to know why certain groups would like to go and visit your school. What are they going to talk about? Does that have any relevance to the needs of your institutions? And if you decide that it's justified, tell your divisional education officer, she'll liaise with the permanent, nothing to do with the minister. She'll liaise with the permanent secretary because it has to do with operational matters. Okay? So information like this, ladies and gentlemen, needs to be clearly conveyed. So you and I are both on the same page. We have people who go to schools, no notice at all. I'll give you some examples of corporate bodies that want to go and sell their insurance policies. Okay? They have a procedure to follow. If a visitor comes to your house, or if a visitor goes to us, probably another institution, he or she will not be allowed to address your staff, or any staff for that matter. Likewise, with the Ministry of Education, same. The welfare and safety of you, our teachers and the students is our responsibility. Okay? We don't want aggressive people going. Sometimes we receive information about parents who are not happy with things, they barge in and they start engaging in confrontational conversations with probably the head of school or the teacher concerned on a lot of issues. So this is just a checklist. Who wants to come and why? What is it that they want to talk to the students? You want them to do that? Fair enough. Everybody does that. Even ministries come to us and say, look, we want to organize this national something day. And we say, go ahead, because it's of importance in our curriculum. So I'd like to put that at rest, saying that the visitor policy is there to ensure that we have control over our teaching time. We want that, so that our syllabus is completed on time, so that there's no need for us to ask you to do extra classes or Saturday classes, because that is your time, that is your teacher's time. If there's Saturday class, then you will be mandated to go there too. As head of school, you have to be there. So plan with your teachers. These are the weeks, this is the time you're going to have an exam, this is our sports week, this is the other activities that you're going to have. Plan it. This is careers week, this is library week. Our school curriculum is so dense, I'll say, that we don't have time for the activities. You have your coverage to complete within certain weeks before exams, etc. That's our priority. The teaching and learning is our priority. Of course, we say holistic education. Holistic education comes from other extracurricular activities. And if you think that's a priority, the choice is yours. We give you that liberty. All we are asking is for you to inform your divisional as to what the requests are for. Who is the request from? And obviously you know that any visitor, any outside visitor apart from the parent or the guardian has to be registered with the FTRE for indemnity purposes. If any accident or any mishap happens in the school, who's responsible? Who will be responsible? The Ministry of Education. If something happens, children reach late after that session. So you decide to organize a session with the NGO, for example, okay? A good session. But then it delayed by 1 hour. Then you have issues with the bus. Then the bus cards will not be activated because it's outside the school hours. Please think about all these issues. Sometimes we have people jumping up and making conclusions about just one without looking at the issue in total and the consequences of it. We want children to be home on time. We don't want parents to panic unnecessarily because they have not been informed that the child will be asked to stay in school late, or because the bus card didn't work because it was outside the school hours. Simple things like that. And we want to empower you to do that and run your institutions and run your schools without any hassles, etc. Okay? So I just wanted to get back on that. So because we are looking at a large number of students in your institutions, so please be mindful of that. The welfare of your children and the welfare of your staff is your responsibility, the head of school. And please be mindful of that. Total teacher employed by the Ministry of Education, ladies and gentlemen, we are the biggest employer, biggest government employer. Currently we employ 13,727 teachers. And I can understand when we have HR issues. I'm sure you're going to ask me about HR issues, okay? And that's why we are here. So we're looking at 13,727 teachers. And of course, as vacancies arise, as people migrate, as people resign, we start filling it in. So if I can just come to that and put your mind to rest, we have reorganized our HR. Okay? And I've been told that your staffing requests, your transfers, your placements are in full swing. We have staff that are working quite late hours to ensure. And if I can roughly give you a figure, you should have your adequate staffing by the end of this week or next week. We can give you updates about schools that have requested. We have updates here and we'll be communicating with you one-to-one as to where the staffing is. But the staffing audit, ladies and gentlemen, has also identified certain issues of overstaffing. While we have certain schools that are understaffed and we are trying to find placements, there are certain schools that are overstaffed. So I'd like to appeal to you, especially those secondary school teachers. We are aware that we have issues with maths and science and industrial arts placements, but it's not as serious as we make it. We're trying to identify overstaffing in certain schools so that other schools could be staffed. But in future, we see a problem. We see a problem with maths and physics graduates. Those that leave our services are mostly migrating to other countries. So that's why we're having these maths workshops with the teachers to see how do we encourage our children to take up maths. Nobody wants to take up maths as a career. How do we make maths more interesting? At some time when I was not with this ministry, there was the idea floated that we do life maths and social maths, which is done very well in other countries. So our team at CAS, the Curriculum Advisory Services, has been tasked to see how best we can bring that and ensure that students who want to do life maths, they do it. career. Those that want to pursue a career in maths, take up maths, and those that want to do maths for simple life skills, additions, banking, etc. like that. How do we do that? But again, that has to be a national decision. Otherwise, we don't want to discourage children from taking maths. They have to take maths. But where do we branch out into life and social maths? So that's the plan for us. But again, that's an issue that probably will take some time for us to come to a conclusive agreement. But meanwhile, we are looking at re-engaging industrial arts retired teachers. We are looking at re-engaging maths and science, maths and physics teachers. So if you are aware of somebody, of course we have information, but if you do know somebody who's left your school last year and is interested to come back, please recommend the names, because we'll be calling out an expression of interest very shortly. We are allowed to do that under the scarce skill, because we realize that that's a scarce skill. But that's not a solution. That's a very short-term solution. You and I will have to find solutions to ensure that our students take up maths and science subjects, STEM subjects actually, and become qualified teachers or engineers or whatever we are looking at. How do we do that? We'll look for solutions. So if you are one of these schools who has not actually done your class audit into FEMIS, you will have problems receiving your grant. But I'm saying out of the 100 or 101, out of the 101 primary schools in your district, we have released the grant for 88 schools. So we are still left with about 12 schools. I'm sure you know that. You need to furnish us with your class audit. If you haven't done that, if you're not sure, please talk to the team here so we can release your grant. And out of the 24 secondary schools, we've already released for 21. So there are 3 schools that may still be awaiting their FEC grant, and we are ready to release. Please furnish us with your class audit and we will release it. So that should bring an end to that. Okay, if you are one of those schools, my advice is for you to liaise with the audit team, the finance team, and otherwise let us know. We'll contact the team at headquarters and we'll assist you with that. Coming back to FEC grant, ladies and gentlemen, you are aware that we had a reduction of 2.7 million in our FEC grant. FEC grant has been in place since 2015, where we've said that parents would not be burdened with the task of paying for school fees and textbooks, etc. So we urge that you use your grants very prudently, and in case you have issues with sort of the grant not being sufficient enough to be utilized in one area, you know which percentages you have to work with: admin, building maintenance, science, PMEC, stationery, all that is a certain percentage. Please write to us and say that we have surpluses in this particular allocation. We will allow you to via to use that. But again, you are not to pressure any parent to pay. When the school started, we had some issues with PTA levies. As a head of school, you should know Parent-Teacher Association is a voluntary association. You have nothing to do with that. So you will not be part of any management decisions to impose a parent-teacher levy in your school. You are not authorized to use the school receipt books to charge Parent-Teacher Association levy. Can I make that very clear? That's a management's decision with them, with the parents. It's voluntary. If the parent wants to contribute, that's their choice. But it is not mandated from the Ministry of Education side. So please do not pass misinformation, because I sometimes am frustrated by saying this over and over again, yet we have certain schools doing that. So I think a stop has now been put, but come next year, I'm sure we'll have another issue like that. Okay, so as practice, you will sit with your managements and discuss about the priorities. Should the management decide that they want to build new infrastructure, well then that's a decision that you have to take collectively. And managements are allowed fundraising. They normally write to the permanent secretary and justify the need for that. And then we have, of course, the asset management unit within the ministry who has budget, and if the managements can liaise with them, we will see how much funds we can commit to that. But any infrastructure development must come with planning. You can't just say you want to do it next month, a new building. And you should not be pressuring the community or your students for that. Simple things like that. I've spoken about policy matters. Please ensure that you know all the policies. It's uploaded on your website. And should you have difficulty accessing that, do let us know so we can provide you with copies to your division. Take it back to your teachers. Get them to read it. Have professional development sessions on that. So you are aware of what guidelines we all are binded by. Sorry, let me come back to that. Your student-free days, I'm sorry I couldn't meet up with most of the schools, but the team was out for your student-free days. Please ensure that you use those days effectively for planning. It's very important. So when the students come to school on the school day, you know the direction that you have set for that. Cleanliness, again, your responsibility is to ensure that the environment that you create in your school is the best. Cleanliness, that's very important. Your building structures. We finished with the infrastructure audit for our government schools, and we are working on our government schools. And then slowly throughout the year, we're going to come around to your schools and see how best we can plan for future. After TC Winston in the West and in the islands, we managed to rebuild a lot of schools. However, there's some schools are still on the verge of being rebuilt. If I can give you an example of the Uni, work will start at Yadata and Kodoma, I think in the next 2 weeks. And Lodala has already started. Yeah. So there's certain areas where we sort of way behind, but we hope that we will be able to sort of rehabilitate those schools which they lost the buildings to natural disasters. So that's there. And so government gave us $35 million this year to complete our rehab projects. And if your school was one of them that was affected, I'm sure it has been completed. If not, then it is budgeted to be completed this year. Schools under WASH program. If your school is not one of those schools under the WASH program, then we work with Ministry of Health and WHO. We have decided this year to expand further schools. So the team will be communicating with you if your school has been identified to be part of the WASH program this year. And that's again prioritized. Spoken about FEG. Please ensure that the FEG is utilized for the purpose it's given. We have some schools where we centralize the grant. When the financial audit team goes out and audits your account and we find out that there has been mismanagement, then we centralize, and it creates a lot of inconvenience for the school operations. So abide by this, by the procedures of utilizing your grants. Again, as a new head of school, if you are not aware, please do let us know. We will send our finance team to ensure that you are briefed well on that. Okay? And acting, people talked about acting. Some people made it very obvious we are acting for 30 years. I left the Ministry of Education after 25 years. I was still acting. After 25 years of service, I left the Ministry of Education. I was still acting. I think acting is a privilege. And it is a privilege. You get paid 95% of the salary, and those of you who are not privileged, let us know, we'll put somebody else there. Okay? It's a privilege. I know you want to be confirmed, but there are certain procedures you'll have to follow to confirm you. But if you think you are forced to act, you are coerced into that acting position, please do let us know. Whether you are acting or confirmed, we want you to do the best. We pay you 95% of the full salary. And there are hundreds and hundreds of people out there on our pool waiting to be promoted to acting positions. But for the primary school head teachers, your positions were advertised last year, and we intend to fill all throughout this year. So primary school positions for heads of schools that was advertised last year, we intend to fill it this year. Okay, so I wish you all the very best for that. But meanwhile, please keep performing and doing your duties to the best of your abilities. So secondary schools, we intend to advertise all the positions this year as well. Okay, and we have been talking to your unions about some of the issues that was identified last year, and we have come up with a new matrix, and I'm sure your unions will communicate to you in that. We want to do it very fairly and squarely in a very transparent manner when it comes to appointments of heads of schools. Lessons learned, but the way forward is to see that whoever is placed in a position of leadership as a head of school will have to go through the open merit recruitment system. Okay, and that's it. Of course, there's an appeal procedure as well, and you will be allowed to appeal, and then there's an appeals commission that looks at that. So that's where it stands. Meanwhile, your actings will continue, and we've rolled over a lot of actings from last year. We have revoked some actings as well if there was a disciplinary case registered against you. Very shortly, maybe in the next couple of weeks, can somebody take a note of that? We will provide you with information about breaches, certain breaches, right, that are used against you to say, okay, you step down, there's an investigation going against you. So minor breaches are there, serious breaches are there. Serious breaches would be mismanagement of fund. Serious breaches would be corporal punishment. Serious breaches would be sexual harassment. Okay, so we will communicate with you so that you are aware when you are asked to step down and there's an investigation. When we receive a complaint, it's very serious in nature, we ask you to step down, we investigate, and if you come out clean, you go back. So that's a normal process. Corporal punishment, ladies and gentlemen, I actually was visiting one school yesterday. I was surprised to see, as I walked on the corridor, I saw one teacher walking around with a big stick. Get inside, get inside, get inside. So if that's happening, please put a stop to that. People are losing their jobs because of corporal punishment. It's zero tolerance to corporal punishment. This is a corporal punishment policy. And you have your own behavior management policy. Please advise your teachers. Corporal punishment, zero tolerance. Okay, let's not inflict corporal punishment. And you as a head of school, please ensure that you do not practice that, because your staff will follow suit. Again, just a word of caution there. Textbooks, we continue to provide textbooks to your schools, and sometimes this is ongoing because we expect that over the last couple of years your schools have accumulated the books that the ministry produced was given to you. And in case you still have shortages, do advise your education office, and that will be supplied to you. But we tried to ensure that majority of the books were supplied well before the schools, but sometimes logistics becomes an issue, bad weather becomes an issue. We did find out that when certain books were about to be delivered, there was nobody at the school to receive it. So probably you didn't know that the books were coming to your school. So we'll try to strengthen that up as well. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're a head of school and you know your school is open during the 2 weeks break or 8 weeks break, I'm sure somebody is there delegated. Okay, or put a notice up there that this school will be closed for 2 weeks or something like that. But my experience tells me that there's always somebody at the school to receive something. So your bursar would be there, your admin officer would be there, your librarian would be there, or you can allocate, you can tell your vice principals, okay, I'll be away, phone contact, don't switch your phones off, don't tell your staff not to call me because I'm on holiday. Okay? So the arrangements that you do, you can delegate responsibility. See, one of your responsibilities is to fill in the FEMIS, right? But the compliance rate for filling in FEMIS is very low. So those schools that haven't received their FEC grant, I would put the blame on the head teacher. Because that's your responsibility. If you have delegated it to somebody, fair enough. We are not stopping you from delegating it to somebody to fill the FEMIS. But if you haven't received your grant, somebody has not done the job and responsibility is yours. So you can delegate your duties. But also appreciate the work that your teachers do, the road patrol duties, appreciate it. I remember I received complaints about principals who come to school late or head teachers who come to school late, asking the staff to fill in red, but you fill in blue. The rules apply. The rules apply to all of us. If you come at 8 o'clock, come at 7:30, 7:30, leave at 4:30, leave at 4:30. I had a few teachers actually photocopying the time book and giving me evidences, madam, this is what the head teacher did, but when I was late, I was asked to apply for half day because they added my, come on. These are the same teachers that supervise during lunchtime. These are the same teachers that stay back and conduct athletics, rugby and soccer training. These are the same teachers that leave their families and sacrifice their Saturdays. and do the extra work. It's a give and take. Lead by example. If you are in school by 7:30, you will see your teachers following you. But if you are come 8 and whenever you want to leave, you leave. When you leave your school, advise your division. So that if something happens in your school, we are aware. I was told in one of the island schools, the head teacher left for Suva. One of the parents called, and we found out the head teacher was not there. Why should the parents inform us? You inform the divisions. Madam, I have to go to university to enroll my child. That's your right. Apply for leave, but do advise us. That's what we want to know. Because the media is not going to ask you. The media is going to ask us. So if we know, yes, the head teacher was given leave to go and enroll his kid, fair enough. But in his absence, there was somebody from there. And if you're really short of any teacher, just tell your divisional staff, we'll send somebody there. But supervision, safety, welfare, the decision-making power is yours. And you are sitting there because we think you are the best person to make the decision. When you have natural disasters, how well do you inform us? You need to close your school down because of the bus service. Bus doesn't come here at this time. How well do you inform us? Please do that. Inform your division. We connect with the divisions. We can't connect with individual schools. Keep updating us. Send emails. Everybody carries this phone. I'm sure there's a lot of data on this. If there's poor connectivity, then just pick up the phone. Don't use that. Just call up. Make sure you know the number of your division. The emails. The decisions that we make, ladies and gentlemen, is based on the information that you give us. So it's very important that you give us information. Suddenly you see that the school numbers are coming down. The staff attendance is becoming weak. The student attendance is big. Find out. Let us know. Oh, is there an issue with the road? Is there an issue with this? Is there something going on? E-ticketing, there's a lot of issues going about e-ticketing. So we topped up 60,000 plus e-ticketing cards, but we just found out that it's very close to 36,000, or maybe by now it would be around more than that. 60% of students have actually redeemed the cards. So what we've done is we've generated a list of students for your schools whose cards have not been redeemed. Right? But when I look at the attendance, the average attendance nationally is about 95% for the first couple of weeks. But the cards have not been redeemed. So we are going to give you the list. The divisional is going to forward you. You will have to go. There's a list of cards that have not been redeemed. Please check. Check with your students. Go the extra mile to check. It could be a lost card. That's why they are not able to redeem. And you haven't advised us that the card has been lost. So for lost cards, they will go to Vodafone and say, my card has been lost. We top up. Find out. Solution oriented. I can't go and check every 30,000 card there or 60,000, but we've given you that responsibility. No head of school has actually written to us and said, okay, I have 50 students that they are not able to redeem. You haven't given us that information, but we are giving you the information that these are the students in your school that have not redeemed their cards. Please find out why. Give us a feedback. There's assistance. Last year we assisted 100,000 students with this e-ticketing, including RSL vouchers, boat vouchers. So I need to know where are these students, and you have the capacity to give us that information. Okay, so those are some of the issues that are coming up, and I'm sure pay issues, contract issues. Okay, 200 contracts are coming to an end in April. We've identified it through the system. We'll communicate with you. The team has already started. We'll communicate. If you don't know how to upload, it's going to be e-contracts. We're not using paper anymore. So your staff, ask your staff, how many contracts are coming to end in April? They will let you know. Get them to, the contracts will be sent here. Get them to read it, please. Check the salary, that they're on the right salary, stuff like that. Print out the last copy. Take a picture of that. Upload it. Comes to us. But to help them. Okay? You must be aware. But sometimes we are slow to communicate or late to communicate with you. And these are HR issues. So now the HR has been instructed to very closely work with the divisions. I don't know why there was a disconnect. There was a disconnect. Instead of decentralizing, we had actually centralized a lot of things. Okay, so we working with the divisions. We liaise with the divisions. Through the divisions, we've been able to identify there are about 9 maths, physics vacancies. So easy, eh? Then we need to do that. So that's how we are progressing this year. We talked about textbook, we talked about HR issues, we talked about transportation, we talked about teachers, corporal punishment, sexual offences, mismanagement of FEC grants, acting, technology, curriculum, school targets. I think I'll stop here. But all in all, ladies and gentlemen, what I wanted to say here is there's a lot of trust that has been placed on you. The communities expect a lot from you. We expect a lot from you. Minister of Education gets the highest budget. Taxpayers' money. It's the highest we get because our responsibility is so huge. Right? So please do justice to your positions. Feel free to ask. Feel free to contribute. This is your ministry. If you think something is not working, let your divisions know. How about it works this way? But safety of the children. Sports, this season is going to be a lot devoted to sports. Make sure your children are supervised at all times. When you take them out for trainings, when you travel to Suva with your delegation from the north for the Coca-Cola Games, safety is paramount. When you travel for workshops, the welfare of your students, again, set your expectations of your deputies, your vice principals, your assistant head teachers, your HODs, and I'm sure you've done that. Plan your year well. Utilize that 8 to 4, right? Maintain that school ambience in your when a visitor steps into your classroom, your school, you must appeal, and you are judged by that. You are judged. You know, you have a lot of teachers have a lot of high regards from the community. You are looked up as a leader, as somebody who's going to help make decisions, contribute to community. Oh, the last thing before I forget. Whichever school you are in, remember that school already has an existing culture. We have schools that are run by management, we have government schools, we have faith-based organization schools. There's always a culture there. Respect that culture. Try to understand the culture of the school. What is the expectation of the school? Faith, morality, values. How, if, say, for an institution is known to be the best in sports, keep that, balance it with academic. Dress code, religious values, participation of head of school in the community affairs. So you are a new head of school, so no more playing soccer in this ground. I've come across complaints like that. The head of school will just call the police and say, no, don't do that. We don't want confrontations. Contribute positively to your institution. I have management saying, take this head of school right now. I want this head of school transferred. Why? Because you do things that are not right. So your decision that you make must be for the betterment of all. Then there are certain schools that, no, we want this teacher here. He's been here for 10 years, he's done this. Right way. Get that? Okay, so I'll close the session with this, ladies and gentlemen, and open for discussions. I would expect positive criticisms. Individual issues, you can liaise with the team, but in general, if you have something, because if we start entertaining individual, I'll miss my flight. But generally, if there are issues, let us know. Individual placements and staffing, we have a table that we're going to fill. So you need one maths teacher at this school, I'm sure. Some are overstaffed, they will not tell us. Some are understaffed, they will tell us. Policy matters that you'd like to know, we'd love to hear you that. But personally, if you tell me I've been asking for a transfer for 15 years and I haven't got that we can deal with that. We've opened up that swap policy that was before. So if you are here and then you want somebody from there trying to swap, we'll do it. But priority, family will be our priority. Okay, so thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I know your profession is not it's full of challenges, full of stress. Okay, so but look after your health. Teach your children about good nutrition. Okay, exercise. Give your family the time that they need. Sometimes we sacrifice too much time in our profession, and when we retire, we realize we have a family out there. Balance, health, family, work. I'll leave you with that word. I wish you the very best for 2020, and I look forward to probably traveling down to your schools and seeing more of your staff, etc. So thank you, and God bless you all.
I will not go in detail. Very clear. It speaks about itself. And these are the thematic topics. You find this. This is taken out of the 15-page. You do implementation of the activities and you monitor. That's how. Right? There's been a boat sitting there for quite some time, not functioning. They've had national and at ministry level. The only right? And we are coming to the end of our time. It starts from that level. I've given you a 1 hour. There's 3 more hours to go. Goal number 4, future-proofing, is basically monitoring and evaluation. Pick curriculum. Do stock take on curriculum. Position yourself for change on curriculum.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Muhammad Al-Sayyid Khan, Principal at Nova School.
They want an itemized bill. 5 minutes for work that has been tiring them all along. For improvement, this is where you position yourself. Okay, this is alignment to MEHA SP. This is our target that we want to